What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we've got an interesting new mechanic to cover with Modern Warfare 3, something that we haven't seen before in the Call of Duty franchise at least. And also I want to talk a little bit about explosive slowdown toward the end of the video. Those of you guys that play Modern Warfare 2 probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But let's start this off with the brand new Flashbang mechanic. Normally in the Call of Duty franchise, the only thing that really matters when it comes to being flashed is the proximity of that flashbang to you, and I guess whether or not you're using the counter perk like Tac Mask. In Modern Warfare 3, they're trying something different, and something that some other FPS games do, like Counter-Strike for instance. And this is, if a flashbang goes off behind you, it won't flash you nearly as much. In fact, it barely blinds you at all. And based on some more testing here, it looks like if you turn even 90 degrees perpendicular to it, you're still going to get flashed pretty hard, so you do have to do almost a full spin around in order to avoid that. Also, I did do some testing with high FOV and low FOV. This appears to be totally independent from your field of view, so I don't think there's any inconsistency there. It's not like if you're using a high FOV, this is going to flash you more than a lower FOV. But with this mechanic, it opens up the possibility for a skill-based soft counter to the flashbang grenade. If you recognize that flash is coming and you react very quickly and manage to turn away from it in time, then you can counter that without having to use the Tac Mask perk. And I think it's really interesting that they're trying this out with Modern Warfare 3. It is something that a lot of people have been asking for. I've been seeing this suggestion pop up for years now within the Call of Duty franchise, and this is the first time they're actually implementing it. However, as cool as this is, and I'm excited to see how this plays out long term, I do want to play devil's advocate here a little bit, because I think this could potentially come with some downsides as well. Again, just to be clear, I'm not saying I'm fully against this, I just want to point out that there are some potential downsides here. And the first one is this creates a gap between high sensitivity and low sensitivity players, and an even bigger gap between mouse and keyboard and controller players when it comes to this specific scenario. Obviously, if you play on a lower sensitivity, you're just not going to be able to react and turn in time. And if your sensitivity just doesn't allow you to turn fast enough, then that essentially locks you out of this potential soft counter compared to other players that play with a higher sensitivity. On mouse and keyboard, while players will play with a different sensitivity or DPI setting, generally speaking, even if you are on a lower sensitivity with a mouse and keyboard, you can still make really drastic turns by simply moving your mouse a whole lot faster. Whereas with an analog stick, things just don't work the same way, so I'm not too sure that this mechanic is well suited to controller play. I think it works great for games that are designed for mouse and keyboard, like Counter-Strike for instance, but it may not be super compatible with controllers that can't really flick in the same way. Additionally, for a potential downside here, this may just create too much inconsistency with flashbangs overall, to the point where they just may not be a viable choice relative to the other tactical pieces of equipment out there. I mean, right now it's the beta, we don't have access to all of the tactical equipment, we don't have access to stuns or anything, so we don't know how those are going to work. But with the way that these flashbangs work, I'm not sure they're going to be consistent enough for me to want to ever use them. And I'm likely going to end up going a different route this time around, simply due to the fact that I can't really trust when I get a hit marker with a flashbang that that player is actually fully flashed. At least if the enemy is using Tac Mask, I get a special hit marker when I throw a flashbang into a room that lets me know that that player is not going to be flashed as much as somebody not using Tac Mask. Whereas with this soft counter to the flashbang, I'll never really be able to know how flashed that person is when I enter that room after throwing a flashbang. They may be completely blinded, or they might not be blinded at all, and there's really no way of me knowing, and therefore that's just going to lead to consistency issues with the flashbang, and therefore, like I said, I'm just probably not going to use flashbangs. So those are just a few thoughts that I had here. Again, just playing devil's advocate. I like the fact that they're trying this. I'm definitely open to it and I want to give it a shot. I'm just curious to see how it plays out over time and if it is really going to be well suited to the Call of Duty franchise. As for the next thing that I thought I'd just tag onto this video, since it's not really worth its own dedicated video, but I do want to mention it. Something they've adjusted from Modern Warfare 2 that I'm really happy to see is they've eliminated that slowdown every time you get hit by an explosive or direct impacted by a throwable piece of equipment. Now, for those that don't know, in Modern Warfare 2, if you take explosive damage, or if somebody just direct impacts you with a flashbang or a nade or whatever it might be and it bounces off of you, it would essentially like lock your feet in place for a short period of time so you couldn't move. It would act like a stun grenade as well, even if you were using Blast Shield, which is the explosive counter perk. And this just caused a lot of unnecessary frustration in my opinion. I don't think you need to be stunned as well as hurt really bad by the explosive. I think there's already enough punishment of taking all of that explosive damage. They don't need to also lock you in place, so you're just an easy cleanup kill. And thankfully, for those of you guys that haven't noticed, Modern Warfare 3 has eliminated this. Explosive damage will no longer stop you from sprinting, it won't slow you down at all, and the same thing applies to if you get direct impacted by throwable equipment. Unfortunately, this is something I can't show you a test example of, but I have experienced it several times in the game where people have hit me directly in the face with a flashbang, for instance, and it doesn't slow you down, it doesn't lock you in place, and I am happy to see it's back where it should be. And I do recognize this is one of those situations where it's a bit odd to praise them for bringing something back that never should have changed in the first place, but it's something we've been asking Infinity Ward to do for a year now, and they really seem to be quite stubborn with that, so when Sledgehammer steps in and makes that adjustment that we've been asking for, I'm at least going to give them credit for that. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's video, and this is where I'd love to hear from you guys in those comments down below, especially with the first part of the video, that brand new flashbang mechanic for the Call of Duty franchise. How do you feel about this? Do you like the fact that they've introduced this and allowed for that soft counter by turning away from a flashbang? Or do you think this may lead to just too many inconsistencies with flashbangs and potentially too much of a discrepancy in this area between mouse and keyboard and controller, or even just high and low sensitivity players? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.